What do you do when you're faced with a big decision? Well, ditch the analysis paralysis. Risking mistakes and regrets is all part of living your best life. Hi, welcome back to Savvy Psychologist. I'm your host, Dr. Jade Wu, and every week I'll help you meet life's challenges with evidence-based research, a sympathetic ear, and zero judgment. So how can you learn to trust yourself and your ability to make the right decision? Recently, I found myself stuck at Home Depot. Like in a surrealist movie, I was unable to leave because I was in the paint aisle staring at a wall of sample colors, unable to decide between Falcon Gray and Flannel Gray. Is Falcon Gray too dark? But flannel seems a little too warm. How will it look under the lighting that we have? What if one of these will bring down my house's resale value? Should we even have bought a house in this uncertain economy? Have I made the biggest mistake of my life? Falcon or flannel? Choosing the right paint color might seem like a silly thing to fret over. And it is. But indecision and doubt can follow like shadows in more significant parts of life, too. Maybe instead of being torn between two shades of gray, you're torn between staying at your current job or switching to a different career. Or perhaps you feel unsure about your relationship, but you can't tell whether it's a phase to be worked through or you should call it quits. Maybe you and your partner have each gotten coveted job offers in different cities. So who should make the sacrifice? Or should you try long-distance dating or break up? In uncertain times, it's really hard to trust yourself and be decisive. This doubt feeds anxiety that feeds more doubt. To make matters worse, second-guessing tends to result in worse decisions. Sometimes, even after making long pros and cons lists, consulting your trusted friends, and resorting to throwing a dart with the blindfold on, you just can't seem to get that magical, cathartic confidence that you're making the right choice. So let's take a step back from the nitty-gritty of the decision itself and look at your overall psychological and philosophical approach. In other words, forget for a moment whether Falcon Gray or Flannel Gray is the warmer shade. Let's see what you can do to boost your decision-making confidence overall. First and foremost, accept that sometimes you'll make mistakes, and this is not only okay, but necessary for a fulfilling life. That is, get rid of the goal of perfecting decision-making. If you are looking for a fail-proof approach to guarantee that you will never make a bad decision or have regrets, then you're going to need a time machine. Aiming to avoid all mistakes will not only disappoint and frustrate you, but it will also make you miss the point of decision-making in the first place. We face uncertainty and challenges in life to explore, to grow, and learn and cultivate. Uncertainty also helps us to feel appreciation, surprise, pride, joy, humility, inspiration, and all the other things that make life interesting and fulfilling. To experience this richness of life, it's not only okay, but necessary to experience unintended outcomes, fall flat on our faces, and generally find ourselves in uncomfortable situations. So when you're paralyzed by indecision because you're afraid of making the wrong one, tell yourself, if this decision turns out for the best, good. If it turns out to be not so ideal, also good. That's the ticket price I need to pay for growing and having a fulfilling life. Okay, now that you've accepted that mistakes are possible and regrets are possible too, step number 2 is to be guided by your values and not by fear. So now you're ready to look more closely at your decision. How should you tackle it? Often, we're guided by fears of what could go wrong. What if I regret this? What if other people that my decisions affect regret this? This choice is less exciting, so what if I get bored? That choice is a higher risk, so what if I lose a lot of money? The fear factors weighing on the scale seem endless. Sometimes it's hard to even put a number on how much each option matters. Did you know that there is a term for extreme anxiety about making career-related decisions, for example? It's called zetiophobia, and it's quite understandable why people would have it. Making a career move is a high-stakes gambit, and there's always a chance things could go badly. Instead of making decisions based on which fears you want to avoid, make it based on which values you want to move toward. Values are big picture principles that guide you in your life. And the best thing about them is that you get to choose them. Think of your values as things you'd like to be known for, like integrity, fairness, or stability. What's important to you in your career? Do you value prestige, intellectual challenge, financial stability, consistency with your ethics? There are no wrong answers here. Once you know what you truly value, you'll be able to better choose between, say, two job offers. Not only will your decision become more clear, but you'll also have less regret. You'll know that whatever bad aspects of your chosen job you have to put up with, you chose to take those as part of the package to live consistently with your values. And now, when it gets even more into the weeds about your actual decision, tip number 3 is to listen to both your rational and emotional mind. Often we hear people say things like, so-and-so is so emotional, they just don't make rational decisions. Or so-and-so is like a robot, only using cold-hearted logic. The truth is, rationality and emotionality are not opposites, and you don't have to sacrifice one to have the other. When it comes to trusting yourself and making decisions, you should use both your rational and emotional mind because both provide useful information. Your rational mind can do things like make pros versus cons lists, systematically laying out factors to consider in your decision making. Let's say you're trying to decide whether to stay with your current partner or move on. You might list that they're smart and interesting and great with your dog in the pros column. But they're also untidy, not punctual, and awkward around your dad. Those are the cons. Now, consult your values, like from the previous tip. What's higher on your list? Intellectual growth or being organized? And whose opinion matters more, your dog's or your dad's? And here, your emotional mind plays an important role too. If, for example, your pros and cons list points to staying in your romantic relationship simply because it makes sense, but you feel this big wave of disappointment when you come to this conclusion, take note. Your brain has other information or has done other calculations behind the scenes to produce this emotional response as a way to draw your attention to something important. This is a signal urging you to check whether you've maybe missed items on your pros versus cons list, or whether one of the cons secretly holds more values weight than you realized. And last but not least, tip number 4 for trusting yourself and making decisions is to reward yourself for successes and lessons learned. So, of course, trust in yourself is not like a faucet that you can turn on whenever there's a decision to be made. Confidence in yourself is something that you can and should cultivate over time. Start with some compassion for yourself. Philosopher Bertrand Russell famously said, "The whole problem with the world is that fools and fanatics are so certain of themselves, and wiser people so full of doubts." He is so right. Doubt can be a sign of wisdom or at least thoughtfulness. Working through uncertainty is one of the best opportunities for us to grow. So cut yourself some slack for past indecisions or mistakes or regrets. And now, celebrate your successes and gains after making difficult decisions. So maybe you finally put down that enrollment deposit to go back to school. Celebrate and reward yourself. Enjoy looking forward to the things that made you want to go back to school in the first place. And doubts like, what if I don't end up increasing my salary after this, may still nag you. When they do, don't pick at that scab. You've already made your decision based on a life value, which means you have already succeeded in accepting uncertainty, following your values, and paying for that ticket to an experience that will enrich your life one way or another. And even if you end up regretting your decision because you learned new information about how the unwalked path could have been better, or you've suffered unanticipated hardships on the path you did choose, that's okay. Still celebrate. You have learned lessons, gained skills or resilience, or at least added a battle scar to be proud of. And here you are, truly living. And by the way, I ended up choosing Falcon Gray after what seemed like an eternity, and it looks great. The funny thing is that flannel probably would have looked great too. The thing about having 1,000 options at the paint aisle or in life is that it makes it seem like there are 999 wrong ones. But chances are, at least a few of those options would have been just fine, or even awesome. Let me know how else Savvy Psychologist can help you in 2020. You can reach me on Facebook and Twitter. I'm at QDT Savvy Psych or at Jade Wu PhD. If you'd like psychology tips delivered straight to your inbox, subscribe to the Savvy Psychologist newsletter. You can also make sure you don't miss an episode by subscribing on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Meanwhile, I wish you all the best of luck with making your big decisions and learning to trust yourself along the way. Savvy Psychologist is audio engineered by Steve Rickyberg and edited by Karen Hertzberg. As always, Savvy Psychologist is strictly for informational purposes and does not substitute for mental health care from a licensed professional. Thank you so much for joining me yet again. I'm Dr. Jade Wu, and I will see you next week again for a happier, healthier mind.